Welcome to the Andy Squared Podcast. I'm Andy Kaiser.
And I'm Andy Iglesias.
And we have the pleasure of having Monroe Herington here on the podcast.
What's going on, everybody? Monroe Herington here, announcing that we are officially under contract.
Monroe is one of the top agents for Luxury Coastline, as well as an investor here in San Diego, and we're here to share his story.
I think in any business, right, as an entrepreneur, you're getting into it. It's going to take 5 years for you to kind of develop enough of a clientele and know the business well enough.
Meaning to be able to say yes to something that pushes you harder. Like setting lofty goals.
So many times we're just focused on the result and I didn't make more money. Well, we got to work on what we can where we can, right?
For myself, I find surfing or running, things like that, where it's quiet and it's just you out there. That's kind of like my meditation. Can you do active practices like that? Could that be considered a meditation for some people?
So that can help you clear your mind, right? But how do you clear your mind when you're not occupied? That practice takes a long time.
All right, welcome to the Andy Squared Podcast. I'm Andy Kaiser.
And I'm Andy Iglesias.
And we have the pleasure of having Monroe Herington here on the podcast. Monroe is a guy that is a young professional, really excelling within the real estate realm, not only as a broker of both luxury homes here in San Diego as well as multifamily, but also in the investment space, and has done some good feats outside of the professional realm as well. So we're excited to have him on the podcast. Welcome, Monroe, and
appreciate that,
happy
guys.
to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, so kind of tell us what it is that your day-to-day looks like and how you got to where you are right now.
Yeah, it's a loaded question, but yeah, day to day, man. Well, I always like to start my day by getting my mind right, getting in the gym, trying to wake up early, keeping the positive thoughts flowing in. I feel like the default in the human mind is also always kind of a little bit negative. At least that's my experience. So it's like waking up, setting positive intentions. Making sure you're breathing and getting oxygen flow. I always love to do a little bit of breath work and yoga when I first get up. Drink a green juice, hit the gym, and then obviously just try to get to the office in the morning and typically make some prospecting calls, catch up on whatever I need to do. But I think a lot of it is around keeping a good mindset. Within the workspace, within the gym, everything that you're doing to cultivate that, and everything's geared towards that.
Yeah. So I guess tell people what you do. You sell real estate, right? We can start with that.
So specialization in coastal luxury real estate and multi-unit sales. So I work with a lot of investors as a byproduct of working in markets like Pacific Beach. There's a lot of people coming from out of town, San Francisco, Los Angeles, these places where people tend to have good money, but they want to buy something as an investment and a vacation home for themselves. And I think after COVID, we found a lot of money coming down from San Francisco Bay Area, and also Arizona. I mean, San Diego is just a hot spot and destination for a lot of people. I kind of fell into really working the Mission Beach market and selling short-term rentals to a lot of investors because the numbers honestly pencil really well. You can find that you'll get a 5, 6, sometimes even a 7% cap rate, which is kind of unheard of for a California coastal luxury market. So you kind of have your cake and eat it too, because those properties are also going to appreciate at your 6 to 8% on average, depending on the year. Which for that type of a cap rate, usually you find markets aren't going to appreciate as much, right? So that's kind of how I fell into really specializing in this market and working with investors, and also starting to invest in those types of properties myself as well.
Gotcha. And how long have you been doing
real estate?
Real estate now?
Yeah. Well, I started up in Lake Tahoe in 2013.
Okay.
So 2013, now it's 2024, so going on 11 years. Yeah.
Nice. Wow.
Yeah, I got in when I was 20. I'm 31 now, so.
Did you start off with a team? Because now you have your own brokerage, correct?
No, good question. Yeah, teams weren't really a thing up in Tahoe. It was a smaller town, so no, I didn't. I started off on my own and just,
Wow.
got to work.
Yeah. So when you're in the trenches that first year, I feel like anyone that's done real estate brokerage in some capacity can relate that is a very difficult process to say, hey, I'm going to jump to something that's wholly commission. I'm going to bet on myself. What was it that maybe you saw in yourself, or what helped you differentiate yourself and excel at that point in time? Or was it tough early on?
Well, you know, I think it was my mom's ex-boyfriend now, but boyfriend at the time, asked, you know, his friend who's actually running the brokerage that I moved up to Tahoe, because I got my license, moved up to Tahoe literally 2 weeks later. It was similar to kind of where I grew up in the Big Bear Mountain area, so I was like, okay, it's a level up. There's more money up there, but it's not such a culture shock. I know a broker up there, so I'm just gonna, you know, send it and move up to Tahoe. And he asked the broker, he's like, you know, how's Monroe doing? How's he gonna do? And the Thane McCall is his name, and he looked at my mom's accent, which just said, you know, Monroe has determination, and that's what it takes. So I think it's really that relentless determination that set me apart. You know, I didn't even get A's in school. I didn't even get like all B's. I don't think I graduated. Well, maybe I did. I don't honestly, quite frankly, don't remember because I didn't really care that much. I knew I didn't want to go to college. It's just like school wasn't really for me. But it was kind of a lack of like anything better to do. You know, I had crippling anxiety and not wanting to have to like go back home. And I knew I wanted to live a big life and a successful life in all areas. And so it was kind of like, you know, the get rich or die trying mentality, because it's like, what else are you gonna do? Like, go back home? I'm not gonna go to school. You know, I wanna make sure that I'm not living in regret and that I made the right decision by not going to school. So it's kind of a lack of anything, but like lack of other better options. You know, I didn't have a trust fund to fall back on or any of that. So I was like, make it happen. You know?
Yeah. I feel like when your back is against the wall, that's when you tend to see the best results.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah,
so.
For sure. Yeah, it's like I didn't have, you know, I had money saved up to maybe sustain me 6 months. Yeah. And so it's like, make it happen or move back home or get like some lame job, which I just, you know, had learned that I'm not very good at keeping. So, yeah.
What was there a particular moment in time that it clicked for you and you said, okay, I'm really good at this, or I know for sure I'm going to do this for a long amount of time?
Yeah, so one of the agents in the office, he told me when I was my first couple of years in the business up in Lake Tahoe, he's like, it takes 5 years for this business to really click, for you to really know what the hell you're doing. And I think that, you know, I kept that in mind, and I felt like I was like, year 4 rolled around, I was like, yeah, I feel like I got the hang of it, you know, and I did, because I was putting a lot more time in than most would. So maybe that 5 years for most was 4 years for me. But that being said, once that 5-year click, it did start to really click into place. And so I think in any business, right, as an entrepreneur, you're getting into it, it's going to take 5 years for you to kind of like, you know, develop enough of a clientele and know the business well enough to be able to present your offer and provide that value. And then, you know, you get some momentum, you can keep yourself afloat, but those first 5 years are very challenging, especially year 1 and year 2. But if you can get through that, then you start to develop more consistency. And then once you get past, you know, year 10, and it was really probably year 7, year 8 for me, where it just like shit just started cranking, you know. And once you're 10 years in a business, I think that's when you're really like fully established. It takes 10 years. And it's funny enough, another top producing agent down here, after I moved to San Diego, he's like, just give it 10 years, Monroe. So I had these like little nuggets along the way, right? And he was right too.
Yeah. So what motivated you to make that jump from being up in Tahoe to coming down in San Diego, and what kind of time was that?
Specifically lifestyle. I mean, I was up in Lake Tahoe again, born in a mountain town, moved to a mountain town. I was just bored, man. I was just really bored, and you know, I knew a lot of people were going to college, you know, going to all these cool parties and doing all this stuff, and I'm like literally just sitting in the mountains like alone. You know, alone, holding open houses. Sometimes nobody would come. Wow. You know, so just really like living alone, working alone. Like wasn't on a team. Like it was just the solitude was, you know, very challenging. But it made me grow a lot as a person. It made me focus, because when you're 20, you're like, you know, like you're just super easily distracted, right? You don't have any history of, you know, success or whatever. So you're kind of just like, it's easy to get pulled in different directions. So at least it helped me focus. And it's probably like, if I would have moved down here when I was 20 to Pacific Beach, I probably would have I would have written a different story, and it wouldn't have been as good of a one, you know. So, but you know, just really wanting to be in San Diego because of the lifestyle and the opportunity and just the like, it's, you know, it's San Diego. You're talking about a small mountain town, you know, you're 20 years old, like,
I was actually came down on a bachelor party, and the guy was living on the bay in Sail Bay, and I was just like, dude, what the hell is this? Like, this is wild, this is like plays a playground, middle of summer on the bay. So that's what inspired me, and then I just, spent the next, year and a half up there grinding, and just to get down here.
And what year was it that you came to here?
2015.
2015?
Yeah, so I was up there 2 years.
And then coming down here, did you feel like you had a good network? Was it like
no?
You had until I had to scrape the books and start over.
I had no network, bro.
Yeah.
Like I had no network in Tahoe. I moved up there, made it happen. I had no network down here, and I moved down here and made it happen.
Wow.
Yeah. Fortunately, when I moved down here, my first year, I was able to still keep on pace with the sales that I was doing in Tahoe. So first year I sold 2, second year I sold 10, then my first year down here I sold 10, again sheer like determination.
When you say 10 million
houses.
in sale, okay, 10 houses, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So coming from Tahoe to San Diego, what were the biggest changes in a small market versus such a large market like San Diego?
Oh my gosh, overwhelming, right? Because it's like Tahoe, you're working your town, and you like, your perimeter, you're like, okay, I got to know this whole town. And you move to a place like San Diego, it's like, I felt like I had to know all of San Diego. So my brain was just like exploding. I'm like, how am I going to learn this entire market, right? And then not realizing like, hey, no, you actually do niche down, and you like my markets now, Pacific Beach, Mission Beach, La Jolla, like I have niched down into those markets. But when you first moved down here, like I came from a small town. I always knew where every store was, and you go to a city, you're just like, you don't have to know all that stuff, but in my mind, I'm conditioned to think that I have to know. So, which probably served to my benefit, but it was overwhelming at first, absolutely overwhelming, a huge culture shock.
Yeah. For sure. What made you decide on the coastal areas, Mission Beach, Pacific Beach, La Jolla?
Yeah, well, I think even from before I was born, my mom wanted to live at the beach. She just didn't have the money to raise me at the beach, so she said, next best thing, I'm going to raise them in the mountains, right? But I just love the beach. I always loved the beach when I was a kid, and we used to go to Orange County and such. But again, I was on that bachelor party, got introduced to San Diego, and was like, I don't know. I kind of think that like I like it more here, right? Because I used to go to Huntington Beach and stuff when I was in high school. But yeah, San Diego is just a very unique market, and it's just so cool, right? It's surrounded by water. I grew up around lakes. I love water, so. You got Sail Bay, Mission Beach. It's just like it's such a special,
so many
unique
options.
place. Yeah, so many options. Too many options.
Honestly, that's what it feels like. It's overwhelming.
Yeah.
Every weekend, it's like, all right, what can I possibly do this weekend that I haven't already done? There's like a million things.
Yeah.
There's so many different things to try and do every week.
Distracting.
Extremely distracting. Speaking of distracting, in a city like this that's so fun, how do you stay so focused on what's important?
Dude, yeah, I think like having a good consistent routine, right? Man, gosh, I could talk about that all
do you have like a daily, are you scheduling like
it's
every 30 minutes?
Right? Because like when you're, like nobody's telling me to punch a clock, so it's like I have to be disciplined, be like, no, I get into the office by 9 a.m. Sometimes a little earlier, sometimes 10, right? But at least I'm here by that time, and I'll stay a little bit later if that's the case. But yeah, definitely getting in the office and setting that like schedule parameter for yourself and that standard for yourself. A lot of agents may be like, show up around noon, maybe stay for an hour or two and then go home. It's like, no, like you're running a business, you need to be at least working from 9 to 5 p.m. Like you're running your own business, right? So you should at least, in the beginning, I was working a lot more hours than that. I'd stay at these open houses till like 7 o'clock. I think it's just, really focusing on like what it is you want and not just falling for that instant gratification. I think having a healthy lifestyle helps more than anything. Like I got into bodybuilding when I was 16 years old, and when you're into bodybuilding and that's a focus of yours, like bodybuilding and drinking every night or partying like excessively, and I've done my fair share of partying, don't get me wrong, but like I always like it has always kept that in check and kept the discipline.
Yeah.
Right? So so I'd say like fitness and spirituality and being connected to that has kept me accountable to those practices, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And because that is a lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
And I just grew up like doing a lot of fun things, snowboarding, riding dirt bikes, again hitting the gym. So it's like, find things that you like to do. And sometimes I feel bad for people that don't really have like any hobbies.
Yeah.
Because it's like that, I could see why that would be easy. Like if your hobby is to like buy fresh clothes and go drinking, like that's a lot of people's hobby. They don't have that like outlet. But I have too many hobbies, right? So that keeps me busy. Company you hang around, super important as well, man, because I fell into those circles and getting into the scene, and then you start to like that becomes your value system. So I think it's really important, like dialing in what your value system is. What is your value system? And my value system is, man, like I want to build wealth. I want to build who I am as a man, physically, mentally, spiritually, in my relationships, all of these things, right? So it's like looking at the pillars of your life and being like, all right, like what are the pillars and where do I want to see success, right? And are your actions aligning with those pillars and what you want to create for yourself?
Wow.
Just breaking it down.
And how often are you going back to, are you writing this stuff down and like keeping yourself accountable in some way?
I'd say, it's become more of who I am now because I've been doing this for so long, right? It's just like, you get into a workout routine, you don't have to like track everything anymore. It's like, no, I just trust myself to show up to the gym because I feel like shit if I don't. But like in the beginning, you might have to be like, a little bit more intentional in setting that structure in that system, and you might fall down and you might, say, oh, I'm not drinking this week, and then you might end up going and drinking. That's okay to have grace, but it's about like recalibrating and getting back on track and those small micro movements. So it's like, all these things I'm saying isn't to overwhelm anyone if they're like living in that, but it's just to like be intentional and start like steering that ship in the right direction. And then if you do that again and again and just be conscious and be honest with yourself about where you're at, then you'll end up getting to that that point. I think people underestimate what they can do what is the saying, like they overestimate what they can do in a year but underestimate what they can do with 5, or underestimate what they can do with 10, right? So it's like they set these audacious goals. I'm going to do all this year, New Year's resolution. It's like, okay, but like what I found is I set New Year's resolutions is a lot of times like the next year that those practices start getting implemented. So there's like this gestation period in life where we set intentions, and then it takes a while for that seed to get planted and grow. But it's always like having intention. And I think giving yourself like some space to think and ground. And I have a practice that I've been doing for a very long time. I sit down at the base of my bed every night, and I connect with intentions that I write on a whiteboard. And if I'm not connecting with those intentions anymore, I just erase them, and then I start writing out new intentions. And I usually do that on Sundays, and I review that when I get up in the morning, when I'm doing my breath work, my meditation. I do that in the morning, and then I do it before I go to bed. And there's a lot of other science behind why that works, because you're now changing your brain waves as you're meditating and implementing this into your subconscious mind, and then all the rest, your reticular activating system as you go throughout your day starts to recognize so cues. Like, again, I can go on about this stuff all day, but I think it's just like starting with your intention is like, okay, my intention, like even if you don't know what your life's mission is and you don't like have your outlet yet, it's like, well, like I posted something today about if you don't know what your mission is and you don't know what you want to do, you become the mission. Like working on yourself becomes the mission. So and a lot of times we know we're not supposed to drink. We know we're not supposed to like have sex with a bunch of random girls. We know we're not supposed to do these things, yet we do them anyway. So it's like, okay, like developing the discipline to stop doing the things that are holding you back and being honest about it and doing it. Easier said than done, but over time.
I think you bring up a lot of really good points, and what I really like about it too, or I kind of feel, is I almost feel like it's a lot of times it's not easier not just to say no to something, but to pursue a higher purpose, to pursue a stronger meaning, to be able to say yes to something that pushes you harder. Like I don't know, setting lofty goals. Like for me, it was running. Like 2 years ago, I feel like I was a guy that was like constantly ripping vapes and had the post-college kind of party spell, and then I was like, wait, what do I want to be when I'm 30? Okay, I want to be an honorable guy. Okay, I want to be someone who's successful, and what does that mean? That means I need to shift my habits to something that's going to put me in that direction. So that's what got me to pick up a lot of things, and meeting guys like you, meeting guys like Andy have just reinforced that good community of like, okay, we hit the gym. we set lofty goals and we seek out to achieve them. And like just by having those higher purposes, it makes it that much easier to pursue it. Because I think there's more gratitude and appreciate. I think what beats any party is the gratitude and the appreciation that comes with success or seeing personal improvement in your physical body or spiritually or professionally.
Well, that stuff lasts longer
Yeah.
than like the instant dopamine that you get from one good weekend.
Yeah, well, I was thinking about that too, because I like came to the end of the year and I'm like, wait, I don't look more physically fit. I don't really have more money in the bank, and frankly, I feel like I didn't really grow valuable relationships. And then when you zoom out from that, and you're like, okay, what are the things that I actually want? Then I think it's great to be able to look back on a year and say, hey, I made material improvements in my life, and these are things that, regardless of what happens, but I carry these with me to the next year. And I think that's exciting.
Yeah, like you said, like building yourself up as a person. I think so many times we're just focused on the result and like, oh, I didn't make more money, or I didn't like take these strides. But it's like, well, we got to work on what we can where we can, right? And so like changing those habits, getting up earlier, working out more, eating better, like all of these things, as you start to dial it in, then like the path becomes more clear. But like the path's not going to become clear if you're still behaving in a manner that doesn't support that path.
In a business that's so focused on real estate, I mean, all three of us work in real estate. It's very financially focused. You're in it for financial gains and also to satisfy your clients in their financial gains. What motivation beyond financial gain motivates you every day to continue satisfying your clients?
Yeah, I mean, of course I'm in business to put bread on the table and make money, but like, you know, maybe at first, when I was first in the business, that was like really the big focus, because you're like kind of just trying to survive.
Yeah.
But now I feel like a lot of my drive and satisfaction, like it's like 50-50, you know. Yes, it comes from the reward that I get, but it's also just like, I just like to do a damn good job and people just be like, wow, like that was the best experience I've ever had working with a real estate agent. That gives me fulfillment. And I know when someone provides me with that level of service, how much easier it makes my life and how much I appreciate it. Of course I want them to get paid, but like when I can tell that they're genuinely not just trying to like close me or, you know, just get a quick paycheck, but they're like genuinely here to do a fantastic job. I mean, I feel like that's a more enjoyable scenario for everyone.
Yeah. I feel like if you can stand out from such a saturated space and being just a good person, then that's going to set you apart from every other competitor out there. You know?
Absolutely.
And it makes you feel good too.
Yeah, totally.
Like it's a give and take. Like
100%.
the client's gonna feel good, and you're gonna feel good when you go to bed. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you're not doing the right thing, it doesn't matter how much money you'll make, and you won't be happy. You won't be fulfilled. It just doesn't work that way.
So looking 10 years down the line, 15, 20 years, where do you see yourself transitioning, or do you see yourself on the same path? Would you like to become strictly an investor, or do you still want to continue doing sales?
Yeah, dude, I have no idea, man. 10, 20-year goals, I'm like, man, my mind, my brain, I'm changing so much, I'm growing so much. Sometimes, like, I don't recognize myself a month later. I'm just like, that was a month?
It's a fast pace.
Like, this past year has been, like, insane. Like, I'm a completely different person than I was, 15 months ago. You would have caught me at, Splash House or wherever, just raging my face off. And now it's like I've completely hit a 180 and I'm doing very, very different things. But, at a high level, like, where do I see myself in 10 years? Like, 100% having a family, and taking that next level of growth and leadership, which you have to do. And I think, becoming a father and becoming a parent is like arguably the best way to grow as a person, and become more selfless, and obviously like lead a legacy, perpetuate humanity, because it's all our duty to do that, to procreate. So yeah, definitely like having a family and building that incredible lifestyle, and continuing to build myself as a man who's going to be able to raise incredible people, and then also be able to give to my wife, whoever that is, at that same level. And just, because again, it kind of comes back down to what we just said, is like when I provide exceptional service for a client, it makes me feel good. Well, if I show up exceptionally as a father, that's going to make me feel good and fulfill me. So it's not about the money we make. It's not about always the things we accomplish. It's about like who are we becoming, and then those things come as a byproduct of your great doings. So definitely. And then like, lifestyle wise, man, like I love nice things, right? Like I really do. Like I like nice clothes, I love nice houses, and I like making things better too, So definitely getting into developing luxury houses, developing multi-unit properties, whether that's here in San Diego or, in Costa Rica, these places that I like to go. I would love to start building houses in all my favorite destinations and then Airbnb them out, and then get to use them, and now they're good investments, and just kind of create that insane lifestyle that I didn't really get to experience when I was a kid, and so I think all those things play a part. Relationships are everything, and so because I've been so head down grinding, now I'm starting to really recognize like, okay, well, I need to put more attention towards my relationships that I have with people, right? And start building those relationships with people who I want to be around my future kids. So really just thinking long term in that regard, man. And then just spend time with my mom, spend time with my family, while they're still here. But I definitely would love to, like give back as well, mentoring and inspiring younger people, giving them kind of that seed of light that so many of them need when they're kind of raised in, darkness or negativity or whatever it is, because like you never know what you can do to some young adolescent teenager just by giving them one little nugget of information could completely change their life. So I think it's about contribution too, like. And once you get to that point and you have the time and the space to be able to do that more, I think is absolutely very, very important. And that also fulfills you, right? So it's like all about this, like, how do we create win-win situations?
The more you give, the more you get. Yeah.
Dude, totally, man. Yeah, and I can't say that I've been, like, the best at doing that because, I've just been so, like, head down grinding, which you kind of have to be. You got to be a little selfish when you're younger,
Of course,
but your values start to change. Yeah. Thank you. That's a good question.
Yeah. I know you mentioned the yoga. You also mentioned Costa Rica. I love doing yoga too.
Yeah.
Have you been on any yoga retreats recently that kind of changed things for you?
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, I actually just got back from it wasn't a yoga retreat, but it was a Joe Dispenza retreat. So Dr. Joe Dispenza is big in it. Are you guys familiar with him?
I've seen him online,
Yeah, dude, absolutely incredible. Like probably one of the best examples of a human being that I could find. This guy's just so dialed in, no ego, just genuinely wanted to help everybody there. There's probably like 2,500 people at the retreat. Seven-day meditation retreats. Some of these meditations are like 5 hours. I think we did like close to 40 hours of meditation in seven days.
That's a lot of meditation.
Wow. Yeah, and it's not just sitting there, you're just guided and stuff, so you're engaged through the process. But dude, absolutely life-changing. Then I, shot down to Tulum because that was in Cancun. Then I shot down to Tulum for 7 days by myself and just kind of started to implement that, kind of created my own little retreat, worked with some plant medicine, and guided ceremonies, and then also did yoga, breath work, and all these things. So yeah, man, I think diving deep into your soul and, recognizing that we're so much more than just like our physical achievements, is extremely important to, again, live a life of fulfillment.
Yeah. What if you were to recommend to somebody that wanted to dive into that world, what would you recommend? Is it a book? Is it a certain practice?
Yeah, I think it's different for everybody, right? Like if you really love to read, grab a book. If you hate to read but you like to work out, maybe start doing some yoga and breath work, right? So it just depends. But I think like, yoga is a great modality, breath work's a great modality. Meditation I think is incredibly important for everybody, and to also kind of transcend this, marketed and I don't want to get too passionate here, but just the whole ADHD and ADD thing. It's like so much of that.
It's huge.
So much of that can be completely like changed and avoided because that's such a reaction. Based, like kind of Western-based philosophy, and Western medicine, can be very good, but it's like, oh, you're having a hard time paying attention, like here's a pill, like, bro, what? Like that just sometimes
temporary.
I could not pay attention for the life of me in high school. But my mom was so anti-medication. She's like, I'm not putting him on freaking Ritalin. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
You know, so I learned how to focus when I was in Tahoe, not getting distracted, you know, and having that intention, right? I taught myself how to focus.
Yeah.
Do you think that, for myself, I find surfing or running, things like that, where it's quiet and it's just you out there, that's kind of like my meditation. Mm-hmm. Can you do active practices like that? Could that be considered a meditation for some people?
Yes, but I do think it's also important. That can be meditative, but actually just sitting in silence, because that, when you're running, it's like you're occupied. So that can help you clear your mind, right? But how do you clear your mind when you're not occupied? You know, and that practice takes a long time. You know, I've been meditating, like actually sitting down meditating, not just doing yoga, but like actually meditating since I was probably 20 years old. And it takes a long time, but then after a while you learn to like, okay, now I can actually sit down and not have thoughts running through my head and be so present. And when you're in that place and you're able to start changing your brain waves consciously, and then you start implanting intentions. It's like, imagine a pond of water or a lake of water, right? And like you got all these waves, and it's hard to like kind of see what's going on. You can't see the bottom of the floor. You can't see the it's just a little turbulent. And as you start to sit, that water starts to become more and more calm. And so you start to be able to see deeper into your own space, and you're able to see reflections of everything else around you. So you start to become more conscious, and you're not just lost in this perpetuant thinking that, you know, a lot of times the thoughts we're thinking are just like, they're not intentional. It's just a rerun of all these programs that are fears or anxieties or, it just doesn't like serve a lot of purpose. So we have to learn how to quiet our mind and calm that pond if we really want to be able to truly intentionally create and build that picture for our life. That's my opinion. You know, and I'm sure everybody, like I know a lot of people are very successful and they don't do those things, but sometimes I just wonder, like, how at peace are they? How at peace is someone if they can't sit still?
Yeah, especially in a world that's probably the most fast-paced it's ever been, considering that we have a supercomputer inside of our pockets, like at all times. You know,
unlimited information.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's easy to get caught in the doing, but it's also incredibly.
So when you wake up, you don't touch your phone, you go straight to meditation? Is that how your morning goes, or are you?
Yeah, I don't want to go as far as saying like I don't touch my phone, because it also depends on what time you wake up. You know, but typically I've been pretty good in a good routine. You know, getting up between 6 and 7. So I typically don't look at my phone. You know, I get up, I try to like really focus on my breath again. Grab a glass of water, drink a green juice, kind of get into my like yoga practice for, 10 minutes, breathe a little bit, review my intentions, and then, get to the gym. But yeah, I'm not really like on my phone. And maybe at that time then I like look at my phone, but dude, even then I'm not like, if I got a bunch of emails or people are texting me, like I'm just going to like save that for the office, like when I get to the obviously if it's something urgent, like but a lot of times like things aren't as urgent as you think they are anyways, and it's like, and again, like having that structure, so it's like I'll do that when I get to the office, and I'm very disciplined when I'm in the office. So that's a extremely important practice. I feel like the more consistent you do it, the more results you're gonna see from it. Consistency, at least in my opinion, is like the most important for habits. Like if you're not doing it every single day, you're not giving it like your fullest effort, and you can't expect to see the results that you're supposed to have with it. You know? So it's tough. Meditation's hard. Yeah, I
not
agree.
easy.
I agree completely. Yeah, it is hard, but I also tell people it's like, you don't got to put like some insane amount of like performance pressure on yourself either. It's like start with a minute. Like just sit your ass down for a minute and just like breathe and just chill.
Yeah.
And just like try to and like put some music on, like some nice like calming music on or something, and just like that's your time to just like relax. Like just relax a little bit, and if you do that before you go to bed, then you sleep better too. Because you're now not like hitting the pillow with all these things, like you're calming your mind, and again creating that like that calm atmosphere for yourself to be able to
sleep
actually
in peace.
rest.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, they go to bed, there's things all through their thoughts, and then they wake up at night, or they're not getting great rest because they haven't. So it's like just getting really conscious and getting in control of your state of being and your energy, I think is arguably, like, the work you do internally is arguably just as important, if not more important, than what you do externally. And that's why you see so many people that are working their ass off, but they're not getting any results. Well, why is that? And then there's another guy over here that doesn't really like work that hard, but things just seem to flow to them. It's not a matter of, personality, although that can help and benefit, sure. But it's really a matter of that internal energy and mind state that they have. Because everything is energy. And so when you change your energy, your external world changes. When you change your internal world, and we're kind of conditioned and taught the opposite. We're taught, get the thing, feel the way.
Yeah.
But it's really feel the way, get the thing. So changing the way that you're feeling, and that's why the meditation is so important, is because like you learn to get in control of the way that you are feeling and in tune with the way that you're feeling. Some people are so unconscious, they have no idea how they're feeling. They're just frantic. And they're just running, and then they're like, oh, I don't feel good, I don't like this, what can I do? I'm gonna go drink. But it's like, sometimes things feel like they're almost getting worse when you start to work on them, because you start to like look through your mess. A lot of people don't want to like look at their mess, but it's like as you start like, and again, like you don't got to clean that whole mess up day one, but like little by little, maybe you fold your clothes and you do that, you clean the toilet, whatever, like you just start like, your house starts to get clean. And so that's what I've been doing a lot this last year, is just like cleaning my house. Like, okay, what is holding me back? What are the cycles that I keep going through that I know I shouldn't be doing? Like even simple things, man, like freaking eating too many burritos or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You're like, I know this is not going to make me feel good.
What's your favorite spot for a burrito though in San Diego?
Favorite spot for a burrito? Can we do tacos? Or we got to do burritos.
Either one.
I don't know,
Taco,
man,
just Mexican
I don't
in
know if I
general.
have a preference on burritos, but City Tacos has pretty good tacos here in PB, and then
Great
I also
establishment.
love Taco Surf, and then you've got
Great sandwiches.
PB Fish Shop.
Yeah.
Fish shop is great.
If you're looking for a fish taco.
Oysters on Thursdays.
Dude.
Yeah.
Are they still $1?
They're still $1.
They're still
It's like $1.25, but it's a good deal. Yeah.
That's 25%. Come on.
It's getting steep, bro.
Inflation. Speaking of inflation, I guess back to the real estate here. I love what you said, everything about meditation, but I want to hear a little bit more about real estate.
100%.
And I know we're short on time here.
Oh, we're good.
What's been kind of the biggest change that you've seen in the last 5 years in the real estate market that has affected your business?
Well, so the last 5 years, we're going back to 2019, right? So that's pre-COVID. So obviously, the market here in San Diego post-COVID has just gone bonkers. My business specifically, what's changed? Well, again, I'm kind of coming. That's going from that 6-year mark to that 11-year mark. So the consistency, the referral business, the reputation that I've built around here. So I'm getting a lot more referral business and repeat business. At that point, I was still building that pipeline and still closing, a lot. That's when I really started hitting my stride, 2019, 2020, 21, 22.
Which was a great time for real
22,
estate.
my production dipped a little because I was having too much fun because I, had some good years and got a little distracted.
Which you deserve. You work hard, you have a good time.
Yeah. But at the same time, you got to keep that stuff in balance. And so anyways, had a great year last year because 22 was actually the first year that I had a decline in my production. So every year since I started, I had an increase in my production. And then 22, my production dropped in half from 2021. So I went from about, I think, 46 million in sales to like 20 something. And I was just like, bro, that's not cool. Like, that's not good, And
which for most Asians, that's a great year.
Yeah, right. But yeah, you can't set your standard based off of what other people are doing.
Yeah, your only competitor at the end of the day is yourself.
Yeah. And so, anyways, so then 2023 last year, I picked it back up, got the production on track with 21. But that just goes to show, if I kept that grind going, 23 would have been way higher than 21, but because that momentum fell, 23 was the same as 21. So that just goes to show that consistency, as you were mentioning, and that compound interest plays such a huge role, and there's no telling what that will look like for me when I'm 40. What would that have been? I don't live with regret. I don't regret anything I learned. But just for anybody listening, it's keep on that path, keep on, don't get complacent. And I think through buying real estate myself has kept me, that saved me this year, because I felt like myself was kind of slipping into that, had a good year last year, gonna start having a little bit. But then I bought another property up in La Jolla, and I was like, well, there goes all my money.
Shit, I gotta go make more.
I gotta go make more. And so keeping that healthy level of challenge in your life to where things don't become too easy, and you have something that's you have to perform for. A lot of people, that's kids, some people it's a business, whatever it is. But for me, it was you buy these properties, and it's you're no longer just spending $3,000 in rent. Now your mortgage is X, and you gotta
you have to make the money
happen. Yeah,
there's no other option.
And that's I'm not saying to overextend yourself, because that was an investment property, and half of the and my portfolio is paying for most of it now. But it's even then, man, in 22, that year, I kind of just took my hands off the wheel a little bit. Even my real estate, my Airbnbs weren't performing the same. So it's everything can fall out from under you faster than you think, and it's not to implement fear, but it's just you got to stay on your game, you got to stay on your toes. Don't ever think that, and the more that you build, the more that you're responsible for. So the more that you are accountable to what you create. And so for me, it was I knew I had to stop drinking. I knew I had to stop messing around with other stuff. And
did you stop drinking completely? You went sober?
I did for 14 months.
Nice.
So last year, 23, cut it out completely and didn't drink till my birthday this year, was at the end of February. So
wow. How were those 14 months? Was that difficult? Was it rewarding?
Well, so I cut out, let's see, I'm trying to think. So I cut out the alcohol in the beginning, and then I went California sober, and then that didn't serve me so well. So it was in June of last year, I was you know what, I'm going sober. And then I went completely sober, and that's where the real, because it's one thing to say, oh, I'm not drinking, but then you're out messing around doing other stuff. That doesn't really count. People think it counts. It's it's better, I guess, maybe not, depending on what you're doing. But that's when the real change happened, because I had a wake-up call, and some stuff happened, and I went through this journey internally that was so disorienting, dark, and frightening, that I was whoa. And recognized real quick how it can all go so much faster than you think. And yeah, man, it scared the absolute shit out of me. And it took me, at least a few months to even get my bearings back on it was such a crazy weird experience, but it was necessary to happen. And then once that happened, I was damn, I'm gonna really start making some changes. And so then I changed, the people that I was hanging around.
I was gonna say, I feel like when you go sober, the first thing you notice is that you start to be attracted to a different group of people.
Yeah, well, you become conscious, right? Because you're not oh, I'm gonna hang. A lot of the people I recognized that I was hanging out with, I didn't even really like. I just liked hanging out with them because it
was comfortable.
It was convenient.
Yeah.
It was convenient because it's like, oh, we can all like party and, you know, drink together, go to these stuff together, and I like what you bring to the table because you might know like certain or have these like you're all kind of just like using each other to get what you want out of them, but you don't really care about them and they don't really care about you. That's a very shallow surface level connection.
But when you look back, when you step back and look at it and you analyze it, that's what you found.
Sober. Yeah, when you look at it from a place of sobriety and then you're like, okay, well, I don't have these things to bring us together and to numb us out, then you're like, why would I hang out with that person? You're like, oh, I wouldn't. So then you stop hanging out with them. And then you start to like really look on like, okay, who's really there for me? Who really gives a shit about me? Who do I really want to just like invite over and have dinner with? Like, you know, and then so you start to clear up your relationships. And then even your own actions. Now you're not, you know, like right now we could be across the street at, you know, Flamingo Deck, but we're not. We're here shooting a podcast.
Yeah, which is arguably much better.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially for the long term.
I did sober. I did 75 hard a few times, and whenever I did it, one, my sleep was incredible. Felt like super locked in, tuned in, and my performance at work just like increased like tenfold. That's crazy.
For sure. Yeah, and I'm not completely sober now. Like I will go out, I will have a drink or a beer, but like because I just cut it all out and change my value system and change what's important to me and the people around me, like I don't crave it in the same. I actually don't want it in the same way. I don't want to drink more than 2 drinks.
Yeah.
Like I just don't. Yeah. A lot of times, like I won't even have 2 drinks, or I'll just have like a beer or 2 because of like the hard alcohol. I know how that's gonna make me feel because now my energy's up here. So I'm like, when I do that, it doesn't appeal to me.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm not even really like, but I had to cut it out completely to change
to realize that.
To change the habit.
Yeah.
I feel like even if you just go for an extended period of time, you find such a more clarity in your mind and your thoughts. Just right from the get-go, like rolling out of bed. Like I noticed for me, my ability to get into the gym, my ability to get into the office early. You're up and you're like, let's go. It's like what really changed?
Yeah.
Better sleep.
Your drive. The drive goes up. Yeah.
Everything changes, bro.
Yeah.
When you start being more intentional and like, I even have recently started like really because I did that. Now I'm like even looking into other things. I'm getting even more like I said, you start cleaning your house, and I'm like, okay, like now the house is pretty clean. Okay, how can I make it cleaner? And you start polishing things, you know? And now I'm like polishing. I'm like, no, I'm not going to buy that bag of chips because it's got freaking seed oil in it. I'm like on Google, what doesn't have seed? Okay, like I'm going to get this bag of chips because it doesn't have seed oil. And so now that I sleep, like now I can sleep 1 to 2 hours less and I still feel the same.
Because of the lack of seed oils.
Well, everything, right? Like so I'm eating like grass-fed beef now. Not eating seed oils, not eating as much, you know, fasting in the morning, like doing all these things that are adding to a heightened level of energy and
mental clarity. Yeah.
So that's why it's like I say everything changes but people got to find like what is the one big thing that's holding me back and start there.
Yeah.
And I knew for me it was like the partying. And I was like, I know if I cut that shit out that I'm going to like that's going to be the biggest change that I can implement right now. And then once that changed, then I was like, okay. And it wasn't until like more recently that I really started honing in on my diet.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, dude, why do I need to sleep 8-9 hours? Like my freaking mom doesn't even need that much sleep. Like why do I need to sleep that much? You know. And now it's funny, I started dialing it in, and now like. Last night I went to bed at 11:30 midnight, had some buddies over, woke up at 6:30 and like felt fine.
Really?
That would not have happened before.
Wow.
And so it's like you start dialing everything in and you're like, wow, dude, like I feel better, I'm performing better, I'm happier. And you kind of get into that space and you're like, dude, like going and getting drunk like does not sound as appealing to me anymore.
And it's tough in a city like San Diego. I feel like you have so many options that involve that.
Yeah.
But you also have a lot of options that don't involve drinking.
Yeah, it's pop culture, man, and I think it's really important to like unplug from, what is cool and what everybody's doing. And it's kind of crazy because they're conditioned so early on.
Well, I feel like if you want different results from everybody else, how could you possibly do the same thing that everybody else is doing? You have to stand out, you know, if that's what your goal is, if you want to be a different person or have different, you know, expectations for it. So,
absolutely, brother.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Anything else you wanted to add before we close out?
Dude, this has been a great podcast.
Yeah.
Really, like, I feel like we
Really
dove
fun.
into a bunch of stuff. I feel like it's, you know, Rome wasn't built overnight, and it's just all like, yeah, I mean, you dig into it so well, but really all like the habit stacking, and even just the small, minute changes in your life. Like, I don't know, for me, I just noticed you make a little difference, and it makes it that much easier to apply another difference. And then you do one other thing, and it's even like just putting a book next to your bed, putting a glass of water next to your bed, like doing the things to where, like, putting the phone across the room on the table, so I grab the book before I grab my phone, like things like that, like just get you in the right mood.
You kind of have to play tricks on yourself.
Yeah.
It's so true.
Yeah, and it all starts to compound.
Mm-hmm.
You know? But then again, like, how do you even get to that? Well, it starts with an intention.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
My intention is to not be on my phone before bed. Okay, how?
I like that whiteboard thing you said. Write it down every day.
That is,
really,
bro. It's
life changing.
I've written things on that board before, and literally the next day, just things pop up.
Really?
I've had the most crazy, profound things happen.
Wow.
Because of that practice.
That's powerful. You're manifesting what you want. Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes overnight.
That's crazy.
It is crazy.
Express delivery.
Yeah, but that's what happens when you can start to really, like, tune in and get in control and calm that pond. Because now you're like, you know, you drop a pebble in a calm pond and you see those ripples. So think of that pebble as your thought, as being sending out that offer wave. Versus if your shit's all turbulent, that pebble's not going to really do much. Because you don't have any energy going there. It's not. So, less is more in regard to thought.
Yeah.
Just like the branding for the podcast, less is more.
So true.
Well, Monroe, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Awesome.
I appreciate it.
Pleasure having you.
That was awesome. Yeah.